The morning sun streamed through the window as Olivia adjusted the delicate clasp of her bracelet, preparing for one of the most meaningful days in her family's life. Her younger brother, Ethan, was getting married, and the entire family had been buzzing with excitement for weeks. Olivia, the older sister by 5 years, had been deeply involved in the wedding plans, wanting everything to be perfect for Ethan and his fiancée, Natalie. They were a radiant couple full of promise, joy, and shared dreams. Or so she thought. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more powerful stories you won't want to miss. Noah, Olivia's husband of 10 years, had left early that morning, claiming he had a last-minute client meeting. "I'll meet you at the venue, sweetheart," he had said, kissing her on the forehead. His tone was relaxed, affectionate. There had been nothing in his voice to suggest that anything was amiss. Yet a strange heaviness lingered in Olivia's chest as she watched him leave. She shook it off and returned to the task at hand: her dress, her hair, her shoes. Everything was ready. Her parents were bustling in the kitchen, laughter echoing from the hallway as family members arrived one by one. Olivia was about to head out the door when her phone buzzed with a new message. It came from an unknown number. "Don't go to the wedding. Check your husband's garage." The words stopped her in her tracks. She blinked at the screen, reading and rereading it. Her first instinct was to laugh it off. A prank, maybe? A wrong number? But something about the message clawed at her. It was too specific, too deliberate. Her fingers trembled slightly as she called Noah. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. She stared at the phone, pulse quickening. Could it be true? She didn't want to believe it, but the silence on the other end only deepened her unease. Without telling anyone, Olivia slipped out the back door, retrieved the spare key from its hiding place, and drove toward the storage unit. Her husband used a simple garage he kept a few blocks from their home. The lot was nearly empty. Her car rolled to a stop in front of the garage. Her hands, now clammy with sweat, struggled to insert the key into the lock. With a shaky breath, she turned it. The metal groaned as the door lifted. At first, it seemed like nothing. Noah's old Lincoln sat in the far corner. Tools lined the walls, boxes stacked haphazardly. Normal, mundane. Then her eyes caught a strange shape in the corner, a large box covered by a blanket. She stepped forward, heart thudding. With one swift motion, she pulled back the fabric. Inside were items that didn't belong to her. A designer purse, high heels, a velvet box with luxury perfume. Olivia's stomach clenched. These were Natalie's. She had helped her pick out those exact heels for an anniversary dinner with Ethan. Her breath caught. She reached for the purse, opened it, and found a wallet, a makeup bag, and most damning of all, a stack of photographs. Noah and Natalie, on a beach, in a cafe, in each other's arms. The world tilted. Olivia's knees nearly buckled as she flipped through the pictures. There was no mistaking the intimacy, the affection, the betrayal captured in each frame. A folder at the bottom of the box revealed more. Messages, handwritten notes, plans, declarations of love. Olivia read each word as her heart shattered. Natalie had never loved Ethan. She was using him. And Noah. Noah was complicit in it all. Olivia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stood in the dim garage, clutching the evidence of betrayal, as one truth settled into her bones. Her world had changed in an instant, and she could never go back to who she was before. The air outside the garage felt thinner, colder, as Olivia stepped back into the sunlight. Her fingers trembled around her phone, still glowing with the photos she had just taken, photos that burned with betrayal. She stood there for a long moment, breathing in deeply, trying to steady the storm inside her chest. There wasn't time to unravel her own pain. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Ethan. Her younger brother, the one who had always looked up to her, the one who had called her his best friend since they were kids. Ethan was about to marry a woman who had smiled sweetly at family dinners while secretly plotting a life with Olivia's husband, Natalie. The name now tasted like ash in her mouth. Olivia knew she had to act fast. Not out of vengeance, but out of love. She returned home with quiet purpose, Her mother was in the kitchen, humming over the final touches to a batch of wedding cookies. Her father was adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror. No one knew the storm that was about to come. Olivia slipped into her room, printed the photos, and placed them carefully in an envelope. She didn't speak to anyone. She couldn't, not yet. Instead of heading to the wedding venue, she texted Ethan. "I need 5 minutes. Alone. Please. Back entrance." He replied within seconds. "You okay?" She hesitated, then wrote, "I will be. Just meet me." At the rear of the venue, Ethan was already pacing when she arrived. His face lit up with concern as soon as he saw her. "Liv, what's going on? You're scaring me." She didn't speak right away. She simply handed him the envelope. "You need to see this." He opened it, flipping through the photos one by one. The light in his eyes dimmed with each turn. By the time he reached the messages between Noah and Natalie, his hands were shaking. "Is this real?" he whispered, eyes wide and hollow. Olivia nodded slowly. "I wish it weren't." There was a long, terrible silence. Then Ethan looked up at her, the truth sinking deep into the softest part of his heart. "She never loved me," he said. It wasn't a question, it was a revelation. "She lied to you," Olivia said gently. "But you still have a choice, right now." Ethan ran a hand down his face, his wedding band catching the light. He looked toward the main entrance, where guests were already gathering, laughter and music floating through the air. "I can't marry her," he said finally. "You don't have to," Olivia whispered. "Not today. Not ever." 15 minutes later, Ethan walked to the front of the ceremony space. Olivia stood off to the side, silent but unwavering. The guests went quiet as Ethan reached the microphone. "There won't be a wedding," he said calmly. Gasps echoed. Natalie, radiant in white, took a step forward, confused. "What?" She laughed nervously. "Ethan, this isn't funny." "I know the truth," he said, his voice steady. "I've seen the messages. I've seen the photos. You and Noah." Natalie's face collapsed into shock. "That's not true. That's a lie. Who told you that?" "It doesn't matter who told me," Ethan replied. "What matters is I believe it. Because it's real." Whispers rose like waves. Natalie turned toward Olivia. "You did this." Olivia met her gaze. "I protected my brother." With fury and humiliation burning across her face, Natalie fled the altar. The door slammed behind her. The silence that followed was painful but honest. Ethan stepped down from the stage. Olivia met him halfway. "You didn't deserve any of this," she said. He nodded. "Neither did you." They stood there, side by side, no longer broken, just beginning again. The day after the shattered wedding, the silence in Olivia's apartment was deafening. The echoes of broken trust hung in the air like dust, refusing to settle. Olivia sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wedding invitation that still lay there, Daniel and Natalie's names printed in elegant gold. It felt like a relic from a life that no longer existed. When Noah returned home that evening, his expression was unreadable. No guilt, no remorse, just frustration, as if he had been inconvenienced. Olivia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply placed the envelope of printed photos and messages on the table and said, "I know everything." Noah glanced at the contents, then leaned against the wall with a sigh. "So what now?" he asked coldly. "You ruin your brother's wedding and now want to play victim?" His words sliced deeper than she expected, not because of their cruelty but because they confirmed something she had long suspected. He had never truly loved her. She had been a role, a comfort zone, a stable presence he could exploit while playing out fantasies elsewhere. "I didn't ruin anything," Olivia replied calmly. "You and Natalie did that on your own." Noah scoffed. "This could have stayed buried. We could have worked through it." Olivia's eyes didn't waver. "I'm not interested in building a life on rot." He didn't fight. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask her to stay or even beg forgiveness. Instead, he packed a single suitcase the next morning and left no goodbye, no parting glance. Just the hollow echo of a door closing on a decade of deception. In the days that followed, Olivia did not collapse. She did not curl up into grief. Instead, She moved methodically through the pieces of her life, sorting what to keep, what to let go. She resigned from the firm she had worked at for years. It was a stable job, but it no longer sparked anything inside her. She had been living for appearances, not purpose. She sold the apartment, found a modest but charming place across town with large windows and a tiny balcony garden. There, every morning, she'd sip coffee as the sunlight streamed in as a wife, not as someone's daughter or sister, but as herself. For the first time in a long time, the reflection in the mirror didn't feel like a stranger. Ethan, meanwhile, was also learning how to breathe again. The betrayal had wounded him deeply, but Olivia's strength anchored him. He started taking long walks with his old camera, photographing street vendors, birds in flight, children playing in fountains. The lens became his way of seeing life anew through moments that were fleeting yet honest. Some evenings, he and Olivia would meet at a local diner, sharing meals and quiet conversations. No bitterness, no lamenting the past, just two siblings rebuilding their worlds, brick by brick, word by word. One evening, Ethan looked up from his coffee and said, "You didn't just save me, Liv. You reminded me that I deserved better." She smiled softly. So did I. Their bond, forged in childhood, had been tested and tempered in the fire of betrayal. But now, it gleamed stronger than ever, not out of shared pain, but shared resilience. Olivia knew her journey wasn't over. Healing wasn't linear, but the worst had already happened, and she had survived it. Not with vengeance, not with drama, but with grace and quiet defiance. Her life, once built on borrowed dreams, was finally hers to shape. The soft hum of the city outside Olivia's new apartment was a gentle reminder that life, however shattered, kept moving. She was just beginning to feel the first flutter of peace again when the phone rang one rainy afternoon. The number was unfamiliar. For a second, she hesitated, but something told her to answer. "Hello?" A pause. Then a man's voice, quiet, almost hesitant. "Olivia? This is Andrew. We met a few times. I used to work with Noah." She frowned slightly, the name only faintly familiar. "Andrew, I'm sorry, You probably don't remember me. I was quiet, kept to myself. We spoke maybe twice at work functions," he said quickly, his tone modest. "But I'm calling because I was the one who sent you that message about the garage." The room seemed to fall still. Olivia sat down, heart tightening. "That was you?" "Yes," he said gently. "I thought you deserved to know the truth. I couldn't let it go on." There was a tremor in his voice, not of fear, but of responsibility. He wasn't calling for recognition. He was calling because the weight of silence had become too heavy. He explained how months before, Natalie had tried to charm him as well, flirting, manipulating, looking for something she could leverage. He had sensed something off and politely declined. Later, when he overheard her talking to Noah in hushed tones, the pieces began to fall into place. At first, he tried to dismiss it as workplace gossip, until one day he caught sight of the photos. Mark and Natalie together. "I couldn't ignore it," Andrew continued. "When I realized what she was doing marrying your brother while plotting a life with your husband, I felt sick." Olivia remained silent, not because she was angry, but because she was stunned by the quiet bravery it had taken. "I wanted to do the right thing, but I was scared," Andrew confessed. "I thought maybe no one would believe me, that I'd get dragged into something ugly. So I sent that message anonymously, but I needed you to know now that everything's out." Tears prickled at the edges of Olivia's eyes. "Andrew," she whispered, "you don't know what you did for me. For Ethan. You saved us from something much worse." "I didn't do much. You were the one who had the strength to act." "But you gave me the truth," she replied. "That matters more than you know." For the first time since her world had collapsed, Olivia felt something profound. Reassurance. Not just that she had escaped a nightmare, but that someone, even someone she barely knew, had seen the truth and cared enough to act. That silent ally, watching from the background, had been the one to tip the first domino. "Thank you," she said again, her voice firm now. "Not just for the message, but for your integrity, it takes courage to speak up." Andrew laughed softly, almost shyly. "I guess sometimes the quiet ones surprise you." They ended the call with no promises, no future expectations, just gratitude. Pure and simple. After hanging up, Olivia sat by the window, rain trailing lazy paths down the glass. In the distance, the city lights shimmered like quiet stars. She wasn't alone, she realized. Not really. In a world filled with noise and betrayal, sometimes the kindest voices were the ones that spoke in whispers. And sometimes it only took one quiet hero to change everything. By the time the leaves had begun to fall in her new neighborhood, Olivia was no longer the same woman who once wept in her brother's arms at the altar. She had rebuilt her life from the ground up, a new job that sparked her creativity, new friendships that nurtured her heart, and a quiet apartment that echoed only with peace, not regret. So when she unexpectedly crossed paths with Noah again, it felt like a ripple through calm waters. He stood by the entrance of a bookstore she now frequented, looking worn, eyes downcast, his hands shoved into the pockets of a wrinkled coat. Olivia froze. For a moment, time folded in on itself. But instead of fear or fury, she felt clarity. "Olivia," he said, his voice softer than she remembered, too measured. "I've been meaning to talk to you." She tilted her head slightly, not replying. "I owe you an apology," he continued. "I was a fool. I lost everything. You, my dignity." He looked like a man burdened by remorse, but Olivia knew better. People like Noah didn't seek redemption. They sought opportunity. In the weeks that followed, Olivia began to sense strange things at work: unfounded rumors, subtle comments from colleagues, and an anonymous blog post painting a twisted story that echoed her past but cast her as the villain. Her intuition flared. She had seen this pattern before. Digging quietly, Olivia traced IP addresses, screenshot email headers, and connected usernames that all led to one person: Noah. He hadn't changed. He was trying to smear her reputation, likely hoping she'd break under the pressure and disappear. But Olivia wasn't disappearing. Not anymore. She compiled a tidy folder of evidence, consulted a tech-savvy friend to double-check the trail, and waited. She wanted no revenge, no dramatic exposure, just truth. When she finally agreed to meet Noah for coffee in neutral, public space, he showed up with feigned humility, offering an awkward smile. "You look well," he said, watching her too closely. Olivia set the folder down gently between them. "I know what you've been doing." His face blanched. "What are you talking about?" She didn't flinch. "The fake accounts, the smear posts, the attempts to sabotage my job. I know it all. And more importantly, I stopped it before it touched me." He opened his mouth, but no words came. "I'm not here to threaten you," she continued calmly. "I'm here to tell you, this is the last time you will ever be in my life. You tried to ruin me, but you forgot one thing. I'm not the woman you left behind." Her words landed not with anger, but with finality. There was no fire, no venom, just the silence of a door closing. Noah shifted uncomfortably, muttered something unintelligible, and stood. For a moment, he lingered as if hoping she'd change her mind, offer forgiveness, extend the connection he so casually destroyed. She didn't. As he turned and walked out of the cafe, Olivia felt no triumph, just peace. She had not destroyed him, had not dragged him into court or social media disgrace. She didn't need to let him vanish into the shadows of his own choices. As for her, she sipped her coffee slowly, turned her face toward the window, and watched the sun break through the clouds. Some closures didn't need noise. Some victories came wrapped in quiet resolve. And hers had just begun. Olivia stood at the edge of a new beginning. The city lights that once witnessed her heartbreak now shimmered from a distance, replaced by the soft, quiet glow of suburban life. She had sold her old apartment, a place filled with too many echoes and memories, and used the proceeds to purchase a modest home nestled among blooming dogwoods and quiet streets. It wasn't grand. It didn't need to be. It was hers, and it was peaceful. Inside, the walls were painted in soft earth tones. Sunlight poured in through clean windows, and shelves held more than books they carried healing. On one shelf sat a small framed photo of Olivia and Ethan, both laughing during a family barbecue long ago. Their smiles unguarded, their joy untouched. The photo had arrived by mail days earlier, unsigned but with a handwritten message on the back: "Some truths are worth fighting for." Olivia never found out who had sent it, but she didn't need to. She understood. That photo was more than a memory, it was a marker of everything she had fought to protect. With her new beginning came a renewed sense of purpose. Olivia took a portion of her settlement money and donated it to a women's advocacy center, one that supported women rebuilding their lives after betrayal and emotional trauma. She knew what it was like to feel adrift, to question everything, to lose trust in others and in oneself, and she knew what it took to come back. She started volunteering part-time at the center, leading workshops on financial independence, emotional resilience, and self-worth. Her voice, once silenced by betrayal, now guided others through their own storms. The women she met inspired her, their strength, their quiet endurance, their hunger to start again. Olivia wasn't there to save them. She was there to remind them they didn't need saving. They were already enough. Ethan, too, had found his footing. With Olivia's encouragement, he had launched a small photography business, capturing stories through his lens. His passion reignited, his heart slowly healing. He built a life rooted in authenticity. The bond between brother and sister, once shaken by deceit, now stood stronger than ever, testament to truth, loyalty, and unwavering support. One Saturday morning, as Olivia tended her garden, she paused to take in the morning light. Dew clung to the petals, birds chirped without urgency, and the air smelled like growth. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. For the first time, in a long time, her life wasn't about escaping the past, but embracing the present. She had not sought revenge. She hadn't burned bridges. She had simply walked away from what was broken, carrying only what still had worth. Her dignity, her integrity, her voice, and those had become her compass. Later that evening, Olivia lit a candle, sat on her porch with a cup of tea, and watched the sky melt into dusk. The world didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt wide and full of choice. She thought of everything she had endured: the betrayal, the lies, the pain, and, she whispered, not with bitterness but with grace, "I walked through fire, and now I live like someone reborn." It wasn't a triumph in the traditional sense. It was deeper, softer, more enduring. Olivia had rewritten her fate not with fury, but with courage. She was no longer a victim of someone else's deceit. She was the author of her own peace. And that, more than anything, was victory.